So it is no secret that Ubisoft is a company that is losing money out the wazoo. It is honestly impressive at this point. I mean, they are just throwing away millions and millions of dollars day by day. I feel like every day that goes by, there's a new Ubisoft failure in the news, in gaming news or whatever. We obviously know about Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, their first quadruple A game. Yeah, those were massive flops. We all know that. The drama with Assassin's Creed Shadows. But today's video is actually going to be about XDefiant. If you guys didn't see, XDefiant is actually shutting down its servers, and they're issuing refunds for anybody who's spent money on the game, because it was a free-to-play game. So they're shutting down the servers and all of this, and XDefiant is set apart from the rest of Ubisoft's flops recently, right? When this game was in beta in 2023, I heavily enjoyed it. I played a ton of the beta, and for those of you guys who don't know anything about this game, most of you guys probably do, it's basically a Call of Duty-like multiplayer game, and it was free to play, all of that. It was basically meant to rival Call of Duty, and I'm a Call of Duty veteran. I've been playing Call of Duty my entire life, and Call of Duty multiplayer has been struggling pretty recently, and XDefiant was a beacon of hope to Call of Duty players, because at the time that it was really announced and the betas were coming out, the worst Call of Duty of all time multiplayer wise, in my opinion, Modern Warfare 2, the new rebooted version of that, like, that was out and it sucked, man. I hated that Call of Duty so much, and so XDefiant was a beacon of hope, and I played a ton of the beta, and as a Call of Duty veteran, dude, this game was great. The dev team behind it, they worked on the older Call of Duties, and they worked with like high-level Call of Duty multiplayer professionals, to kind of optimize this game. And I think gameplay-wise and everything like that, they did it perfectly, at least in the beta from what I played. Overall, I think that the XDefiant crew and the XDefiant team behind the game actually achieved what they sought after, right? They wanted to make a better arcade shooting experience than Call of Duty, and I think that they did that perfectly. So what was the problem? Why is this game shutting down like 3 months after its official release? Well, this game shutting down really highlights some of the inefficiencies in Ubisoft, and just kind of how stupid they are, like just flat out how stupid they are. I say this all the time. The fact that they'll spend millions, like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on games like Skull and Bones and Star Wars Outlaws, it is just financially irresponsible. There's no justification to spend that much money on making a video game. I don't care how big and grand it is. It just makes no sense to me. But also, the fact that Ubisoft has a lot of, internal inefficiencies as well, and that was so clear with XDefiant. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the very first thing to look at here is the release window, okay? If you're going to make a game that's going to rival a giant juggernaut like Call of Duty, you better hit them while they're down, right? Like, you better release your game while Call of Duty is at its lowest. And Call of Duty, in my opinion, was at its lowest with the Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 reboot. That was XDefiant's chance, and they released betas within that time. But it took forever after the betas, man. Like, I think it released like 10 months after the open beta. I remember playing the beta and having a blast, and I was like, man, I can't wait for this game to release. And the beta, if I'm not mistaken, was around like springtime of that year that beta was in, and then the game was supposed to release like 3 or 4 months later in the summer. So I played the beta. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm so excited. This summer's gonna be great. I'm gonna be grinding XDefiant. This is gonna be a blast. And then summer rolled around, literally ghost town from the developers. Okay, they come out a little bit, later and say that the game's gonna come out in winter. Okay, I guess I'll wait till winter. And, ghost town once again. And it was like that for, basically a year until the game came out. And, by the time it came out, everybody forgot about it, dude. And I personally just didn't care. It just, like, the release hype just felt so dragged on, and it just took all the wind out of the sails. And by that time, Call of Duty had announced Black Ops 6, and they started rolling out for that. So I was like, why would I ever get invested into XDefiant when Black Ops 6 is probably going to be a pretty redeeming Call of Duty title, which it is. The zombies is great, all of that. So why would I even touch XDefiant, man? The second biggest problem here is that Ubisoft as a company just has zero reason to release a free-to-play game. All right, this is what they should have done with XDefiant if they wanted it to be more successful, right? Number one, you release it within the window while Call of Duty is down and, out for the count for the time being. You release it in that time, all right? Maybe earlier in the development, work on a single player campaign to pair with the, multiplayer, and then charge $30 for it. Not even full price, charge $30 for it. That way you can make a profit off people downloading your game, and you actually give them some quality content with like a single player story mode or something. Focus on that rather than making a free-to-play title and banking on the fact that everybody's going to buy microtransactions and battle passes and everything like that. They could have put their time and resources that they use making cosmetics and focusing on that. They could have put that into a single player campaign that was a few hours at least, and then, fleshed out the multiplayer. And that just would have been, I think that would have justified like $20-$30. And that way you can set, a profit margin here. They're banking on the fact that people are going to buy virtual microtransactions and battle passes when, that's just not how you're a profitable video game in 2024. Consumers are tired of that. Me personally, I'm so sick of that. I would have spent $20 on XDefiant if it came out within the release window while Call of Duty, wasn't doing good, and it had a little bit more content outside of the multiplayer, because it was a really good multiplayer experience. And I think the third important factor to mention here, if Ubisoft wanted to avoid another failure, they should have just not made this game. Like, they just flat out shouldn't have made this game, dude. Anybody, okay, you come to me, right? I'm an executive at Ubisoft. You come to me and say, hey, we're going to make a game to rival Call of Duty multiplayer or whatever. Dude, get out of my office, bro. It's not happening, dude. Do you know how many games there have been over the last 20 years that, have tried to quote unquote dethrone Call of Duty? Just stay away from it. Just stay away from it. It's common video game company sense. Okay, in my opinion, it just is. Right? They just shouldn't have made this point blank, period. Use the $50 million that they used to make this game. Put that into something else. What are we doing here, man? This just doesn't, I don't know. It just, from a business perspective, it makes no sense. As a consumer, I enjoyed XDefiant, while it was short-lived. It just makes no sense from a business standpoint. You get what I mean? You're not going to dethrone Call of Duty, man. Just make something original, make something unique. Why do you have to try to bank off another game's player base, essentially? XDefiant, while it was really good, that's another factor, is it lacked creativity. Okay, it really did. Even the operators and the characters weren't even original, man. They just thought, hey, let's just have a multiverse of every single Ubisoft game ever, and let's collide them into this one game. Nothing about the game really felt creative. And that's also another problem that Ubisoft has with their games in general. But this failure could have been completely unavoidable, and they could have allocated these resources used in a much better way. I really hope that we are on the tail end of this trend in the gaming industry with these free-to-play live service games. Don't get me wrong, they can be good, okay? Marvel Rivals, that's a free-to-play live service game that actually looks like a lot of fun, and there are exceptions. The problem with, all of these live service games, though, from a consumer standpoint and from my point of view, it's why would I spend so much time and possibly money into a free-to-play live service game when it might just shut down 2 months later, right? That has happened with so many games over the last few years. And, from a business standpoint, if I'm Ubisoft, why even take that risk? I just don't get it, right? Why doesn't Ubisoft remaster a Splinter Cell game for us? Why don't they, remake a Splinter Cell games? You look around, you see Capcom remaking Resident Evil. Dude, why doesn't Ubisoft remake a Splinter Cell game? That would be a home run, in my opinion. It wouldn't cost that much. For Ubisoft, it wouldn't cost that much, and it would probably do really well. I think those games were completely awesome. I just don't understand, man. This is just stuff that seems like common sense. I don't know if it's shareholders. I don't know if it's the CEO. I don't know who is ultimately responsible for these decisions over at Ubisoft, but this company's done. I'm not going to lie, this company is done, because following the announcement that XDefiant's shutting down, they also announced that they are, or I don't think they announced it, obviously, but it did come out that they were laying off 700 employees, which really, really sucks, because for the employees that worked on XDefiant, like they did a good job. They delivered on what they said that they were going to do. It's just, the company and the corporate side of it just let them down, and they're the ones who get punished. This has been a trend in the gaming industry over the last few years, and it really, really sucks. So yeah, man, another colossal failure for Ubisoft. Resources and time right out the window, per usual at this point. I wouldn't expect anything less. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the future of Ubisoft, right? Because they are heading down a road where they're either going to go out of business and dissipate forever, which would be a great thing, or they're going to get bought out by another company, and that company is going to re-innovate, quote unquote, re-innovate Ubisoft from the ground up internally and everything like that, promising consumers better products. And I'm just going to say this right now, dude. If I am a company that's looking at buying out Ubisoft, it's a no-go for me, man. I don't understand why that would be appealing to anybody, okay? And it's for this one main fact, right? The video game industry is so track record and history based, man. The name Ubisoft traumatizes me at this point, man. I don't know if it's recoverable, and that's the case for a lot of consumers. I don't really care what Ubisoft does anymore. I don't care what happens to the company. I don't care what they put out. I'm just kind of done buying games and done just playing their stuff, man. I'm just over it, and I know so many other consumers are. One of my favorite games from the Xbox era, the original Xbox era, is Splinter Cell. If they came out and made a Splinter Cell remake, I literally wouldn't care, which is sad, because I don't know, man. It's just Ubisoft. They just ruin their IPs. They ruin their dev teams. They ruin literally everything. I don't know how they managed to do this, man. They just throw money and resources out the window. Ubisoft is a name that I'm forever done with, except for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That is a pretty good game. That's the only exception, moving forward for me. But yeah, man, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and let me know what you guys think about XDefiant shutting down. I think it's pretty funny to see all these L's out of Ubisoft. It's pretty hilarious for me personally. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.